All righty. Welcome, everyone. I am so delighted to have so many people here today. Today is Wednesday, April 27th, 2022. My name is Arlene Baxter, and it is my pleasure, true pleasure, to serve as the chair of the Bridge Association of Realtors Climate Action Committee. And we are your hosts today for this April Power Hour. This is part of Earth Month, although every month needs to be Earth Month, and acknowledging our issues with climate change. Our Climate Action Committee has a mission, which is to educate and facilitate activities in support of energy efficiency and greenhouse gas reduction for a sustainable, low carbon future. And what better way to protect that low carbon future than to get off our gas and to move to electricity in our homes. And that's what our expert speaker, Sean Armstrong, will be discussing today. Sean has been described as one of the kings of electrification. I'm very honored to be among that royalty today, but it's not really hyperbole. Sean really is one of the leaders in this field of net zero energy. He has, with his partners at Redwood Energy, designed over 10,000 residences. He's truly a leader in this all electric field. He's truly an award winner with his partner, Michael Winkler. They won Department of Energy Innovation Awards as well as United Nations Award. He walks the walk, he talks the talk. I first heard him talk back in 2017-18 when he gave a presentation at the Berkeley City's Electrification Fair. I'd been in this place for quite a while, chairing green committees and our Climate Action Committee, but it was during that talk that for me, truly, the electricity came on, a light bulb went off, and a recognition of all of the harm that gas does simply by coming into our homes. And I know Sean will be talking more about that. It is such a pleasure and an honor to have Sean Armstrong here. Please welcome him to our Climate Action Committee Power Hour. Thank you, Sean.
I feel like there should be like a roar of a crowd. Yay! Great introduction. Hey, well, thank you so much, Arlene. This is a pleasure and honor. Happy to be here. Hey, hi, Becky. Becky and I are good old friends. She'll be presenting right after me on all the money that's available. And Becky, I'll thank you again personally for holding my little twin babies at the CCAT meeting so that I could attend. So Becky's an awesome human being. So this presentation, I'm going to show you the why and the how of home electrification. Just briefly, a quick story. I met Becky at CCAT. That's the house in the upper right-hand corner. That was a place where we were taught how to electrify buildings, how to get rid of fossil fuels and put them on renewable energy. When I was there a few years before Becky, we had a battery system and it was off-grid, and then we went on-grid. Tons of learning to be done there. So that was my college experience. It's fantastic. It's perfect for this career. I spent a few years as a high school science teacher, had a hard time with principals, great time with the students, but I'm a little bit disruptive. So once again, great for me to be in this career, I'd say. I spent 6 years just staying at my desk and working on an affordable housing development company, starting it and having it be an all electric development company, really the first. And ever since, all electric, never built anything other than that. This is a beautiful example. These are low-income senior houses in Fort Bragg with like a nice view of the ocean. Oh, low-income senior housing, beautiful. All of it, every house gets more than $200 back each year in credit. That's because they're so frugal. We designed it thinking it was going to be like how families act, but actually senior citizens shower less and cook less and use less energy. It's great. And then since 2011, I lost my job in the Great Recession, but picked myself up, started consulting, and that's what I've been doing for the last 11 years. My partner, Michael, he was a technical lead on the world's first cell phone system, and he is so smart, it's ridiculous. So I really stand on the shoulders of giants. He's also like 6'5" and I'm 6'3", so he's a giant to me. So My quick personal story, I'll be scattering it throughout this presentation, but this is my house, the yellow house here. Then this is my mom's house, the purplish one. We bought it. It's a 100-year-old farmhouse. Had gas for everything. So on a $20,000 budget, we put in 2 ductless mini splits. We put in a heat pump water heater, a condensing washer dryer, and then 2 stoves because my mom has a stove. So I got her a double oven KitchenAid. And even though I'm a hardcore cook, I actually found I liked having 2 of these little countertop stoves as my replacement for my gas stove because I cook so much food. I wanted 2 cooking stations where I had 2 different countertops and the kids could be over there and I could be over here. So this is like a real situation, 1,200 square foot house with an ADU, and this is 20 grand up here in a rural market. It's different prices everywhere. So now I'm gonna do like fun time, story time. Hope you enjoy this. First one here is all these lines going straight up are products that use electricity with rapid adoption curves, like automobiles now are having rapid adoption curves, but things like electric clothes dryers or color TVs or microwaves or the internet. So many things that we love use electricity. Now, about 1900 is where I'm gonna start my story here with the Tesla of the time. It could go to 0 to 60 faster than any other car, which is to say it took a little while. It was called the Les Jamais Contents. And this is sort of like an Elon Musk looking guy who was driving it at the time. Les Jamais Contents means the never satisfied. So the fastest of all the cars in 1900 were electric, and there are lots of competitors. Then we see the heat pump. That's what you're gonna hear that word a lot. It's what is an air conditioner is a heat pump, and if it is used in reverse, it makes chilled things. And really that was the beginning of using heat pumps is to chill things, making ice. This is a great picture of people delivering ice and during World War I, when so many of the men were over doing their soldiering work. Now, electricity then gets expanded past just like individual ice making machines delivering ice to delivering electricity to people's homes where they have a miniature ice making machines like refrigerators. Now, in rural America, unlike the cities in the 1930s, only 1 in 10 households had electricity at all. And so it took real government intervention to electrify all of these homes, which I think is an analogy for today. Yep, refrigerators today are heat pumps. Thank you, Arlene. Exactly. There's little miniature ones, and they produce heat out the back. You feel the warmth that comes out the back. That's the heat leaving the inside and being put out on the outside. That's heat pumps. They work back and forth, pull the heat inside of the house, push heat outside of the house, pull heat into the water heater, that kind of thing. Just pulls heat into someplace. So it's just wonderful. I grew up in a rural farm that was electrified by a rural electric co-op. This is a real lived experience because about 60% of the landmass of the United States was electrified with rural electric co-ops. It was huge. And they had gorgeous posters. If you're into art, check out the left-hand side. People just celebrating all the awesome things that came with it. Then another relevant story. What happens during war? Is that people realize that fossil fuels are one of the most vulnerable things that we have. If you don't have fossil fuels, you can't make things go. And attacking supply chains of fossil fuels, great idea. What is over in Eastern Ukraine right now? Not a surprise. Most of the natural gas, like stores of Ukraine, their gas fields, there's an actual war going on for fossil fuels. It's been going on for a while. World War II, at a time when fossil fuels were being limited, you saw Japan come out with some of the best electric vehicles at the time. Post World War II, people relaxed and heat pumps got smaller. So now you could have one in your house, in a living room, and you could have air conditioning, which to this very day, the air conditioning is a luxury. Turns out that it doesn't matter how hot your environment is, the people who have money can afford air conditioning, and people without money in the Mojave Desert won't have air conditioning. I work in affordable housing, and so it's always a startling and grim reality to bump into how awesome it is to have a heat pump in your house, and how much it kind of sucks if you don't. So we get to see Ronald Reagan. His last movie where he co-starred literally with a chimpanzee. So he's a bit of a washed up actor in like 1948, 1949. And he got this awesome job where he got to like hire all of his friends from Hollywood, all the people he could find. And he had a #1 television show every Sunday night, the General Electric Theater. And the advertisements, of course, were live better electrically. And it was Westinghouse, it was GE, and it was all the other vendors of electrification, including nuclear power plants. That was one of his other jobs where he became, quote unquote, the great communicator, is that he opened up every nuclear power plant in our country for about 8 years. You get on a train and you go there and you make a big speech and you hang out with people and talk about the vision of the American future, great American exceptionalism. And what he was really talking about is how awesome it was to have electric appliances in your house. And there's advertisement, there's like movies of him walking around that demonstration mansion there that the utilities funded with all electric everything, including the swimming pool, you know, outside heating system, and the heat pump that was in the living room that heated and cooled the place, and life was grand. He had nice parties. So this was the 1950s version of electrification. How high is your standard of living? And you go down this huge list of electric using devices, from portable mixers to table lamps to space heaters, you know, very uninteresting to most people, space heaters. Number one, refrigerator. And this kind of stuff, there's a ton of these. And I'm just going to say right up front, they're so intensely sexist that I found it really hard to document this time. So these are some of the least egregious. Won't surprise, I'm sure, lots of you, but it surprised me as a younger person how bad it was. So lots of leisure Lottie, easy does it Elsie, pooped out Patsy, and drudging Dora, you know, and the great life that they get if you have 13 to 16 of these devices checked off versus only 1 to 4 electric devices. So the theme of the time is like, this is what makes life awesome, is if you electrify. And we're going to open up nuclear power plants all over the country. We're going to have clean energy. And so they started focusing on these ideas like electric living is safe and clean. You're not going to be burning things in your house and getting soot everywhere, or, you know, getting your kids in danger with open flames. Because I personally saw my mom catch on fire when I was a kid. Her polyester bathrobe touched the flames and literally lit the whole thing on fire in one big sheet, and she had to whip it off and run out of the room. And as a little kid, all of that was just amazingly terrifying and scary. Your mom on fire is as bad as things get, right? Hold that thought, by the way. So comfortable and easy. Everyone's gonna be happy. You don't have to like light coal fires. You don't have to maintain this flame or that flame. You're not gonna have soot in the house or particulates, or it's just gonna be clean. Nothing burning. And it all kind of came to a crashing halt in 1973, because in reality, nuclear power plants were just starting up, and almost everything was fueled either by hydro or fossil fuels. And with the OPEC oil embargo, that meant we took a 20-year pause in electrification. And then just a few years later, in 1979, right next to a school, there was a nuclear power plant leak of a huge amount of radioactive gas, you know, steam. And that just kind of ended most people's ideas of nuclear power being a good idea, in this country at least. So Reagan, who had been promoting nuclear power all along, vociferously, even after he, you know, no longer in that job, you know, he quit a few years before he became the California governor. He chose a Texas oil man, and that really changed things in our country, where we became fossil fuel independent by the Obama administration. But it took a while. You know, we're still always dependent on other oil companies, et cetera. So the next thing, just to point out, like, movement that happens, because up until 1993, we didn't do electrification as a country accidentally or on purpose. But it was in 2006 that California, which is a petro state and has only installed maybe 8% of its housing is all electric, versus in southern states where it's like 60% of existing homes and more like 80% of new homes. We are literally, California is the worst state in the United States. We use the most fossil fuels in our homes of any state. So things start to shift because this Global Warming Solutions Act, see our current governor, see our former governor, this is a commitment that by 2020, we were going to have an all-electric 100% solar-powered building code. We didn't actually get there, but we got pretty close. A few years later, you know, because of California's vehicle incentives, you start seeing the Tesla Roadster come out, the first really cool electric car we had since Le Jamais Content. And now we've got snowmobiles. They're silent. I mean, they're deafening. I don't know if you've ever been around a snowmobile, but like I said, rural Wisconsin upbringing, snowmobiles are incredibly noisy. They're like 80 to 90 decibels. So now that you can go silently out on the water in the jet skis and silently through the snow, I mean, you can get up close to wildlife. The snowmobiles are really popular in Yellowstone because they've been restricting them for years because they're so noisy, they're scaring all the animals away. So you can only go in 4-stroke engines and limited times. And these things are literally silent. It's just the crunching of the snow. So you can go in at any old time, no time restrictions. Now this, just wanted to talk about how sweet it gets. You know, this Rolls Royce electric, of course, with a pull-out luggage holder and an AI chauffeur. So you get in and the chauffeur talks to you, but there's no person there. And that's now. I love how good it's going to be getting. These have been out on the ocean for some years. These are super yachts. They're all electric, they're battery powered, and they've got canopy solar arrays on them. And so they can go 50 miles a day just on the solar array and the batteries. And they don't, you can get gas generators put in them, but you don't have to. They can have 0 fossil fuels and still have a hot tub outside, a helicopter landing pad, you know, 4 to 6 bunk suites down below, the whole bit. The sky lounges of the sea, the silent 80 and the silent 100. Now they got a silent 120, 120 feet long. An Airbus has announced that by 2035, these 3 airplanes are going to be taking us around. They're all zero emission planes, either battery and electric or running on clean hydrogen, which airplanes is one of the only places where we should be using quote unquote clean hydrogen, because that is so expensive and limited versus all of the dirty hydrogens out there, which is pretty much all of it. There's almost no hydrogen being made or can really be made with bioresources. Maybe you can get it from like excess wind turbines in the wintertime, but there's probably a lot of other things to do with it besides all the crazy ideas people have for what you can do with hydrogen. It's so limited and expensive to make. So this might be one of the places where it happens, or electric plus batteries. Now I'm going to get kind of serious on you. I've been trying to show you like where we came from, how awesome it's been, how awesome it's going. You know, this is the American dream, the life that we would like to live. This is the fun stuff. And we've been pushing this since the 1950s, really since the early 1900s, because GE was advertising all the way. But the 1950s, it really took off. And we're here in 2022. We've got really fun toys now. And now it's starting to shift into policy because we have all the tools we need, all the fun toys, all the things that ever do with any building, all of it we have now. So we're starting to respond to what is really happening to people. You know, the 1994 earthquake, half of those fires that were a result, there's more than 100 huge fires. Half of those fires were gas mains breaking. You can see a gas main on fire while the street is flooded. That one gas main blew out all the buildings around it, apartment complexes and homes, just that one in particular, which I studied. There was lots more. Then in 2010, you know, PG&E was hiding the fact that it wasn't documenting where the gas lines were. After the San Bruno gas explosion, which killed 8 people, and including 2 people at the CPUC who actually their job was to inspect gas pipelines. And so the irony is so profound, but they died. And there are 38 homes destroyed. And for the next 7 years, PG&E, after being caught doing this, still falsified its gas records until 2017. You can go read up on that. They falsified them. They kept on saying that they did know where they were, and they wouldn't. And these kinds of accidents kept on happening all through those years. Carmel by the Sea nicked the gas pipeline that wasn't there. House blew up. Nice house. Carmel by the Sea. So then 2015, I'm sure all remember the Aliso Canyon leak, which lasted for almost half a year and sent hundreds of people, kids, you know, to the hospital with nosebleeds, and they got heavy metal contamination, which doesn't leave your body and messes up your nervous system. I mean, people got permanently injured. And it didn't get fixed fast. And the utility didn't tell people to flee. They said it's going to be just fine. And people got sickened for real for the rest of their lives from that incorrect, knowingly wrong advice. And then this. And this one's intense because this is when my mother-in-law died, when my wife's mom died in this fire, as well as 22 other people. And she's one of the people who died a week later from the damage to her lungs from smoke inhalation, as opposed to immediately dying in the fire, which is what 22 gets counted as. died in flames versus dying in smoke. And then that smoke cloud, as you remember, sickened people all over the state. It's really hard to say how many people dead, but I can show you the next slide here. They did a better study. There were 85 people that died in the 2019 Paradise Fire, totally related to climate change. Yes, of course, it's sparked by this or sparked by that. And then there's fires around here all the time. I've seen fires start from someone with a chain dragging behind their wheel. But this fire, the 85 people who died in flames and then 50 people shortly after, specifically from the neglect of our electrical delivery system, if you recall. And with so many people dying in flames, in 2019 was when we had that East Bay Electrification exposition that Arlene was at. And that's the crowd watching me speak at the time, completely flipped out about my mother-in-law dying, about Paradise Fire, because one of the girls who fled that fire watched people die in flames in their cars as she drove away. She became my kid's best friend because the landlord put her up here, up in Arcata. Her family lives here now. She's still like in the neighborhood. And, it was just so intense to have people fleeing the hills, my friends, and living in my backyard for months at a time because their house burnt down. And so with that kind of like, this is life and death, people, kind of awareness. Pardon me, this picture is put in the wrong spot. Here's the city council members and Kate Harris, the hero on the left-hand side, who took up the charge and said, let's write an ordinance and we just ban gas from all new construction. And that was a successful strategy that had eluded all of us at a state level or a federal level, because that's where the fossil fuel companies play with money. But we've got 55 cities now in California, well, 53 in 2 counties, New York City, Denver, Honolulu, New York, the state, right? And Washington state just passed theirs like last week. This is moving quickly, among states that take climate change seriously or have had people die in flames from climate change, So there's the map. It's pretty Bay Area focused, but not only. We've had 3 now down in the San Diego area. So what you should know about when you're selling homes is how quickly the change is coming. You walk in and you're just like, I'm going to sell a house that's got a gas furnace and a gas stove. Well, if it's in the Bay Area, the Air Quality Management District has announced that they are going to be banning the sale of replacement appliances in 2027 throughout the entire Bay Area Air Quality Management District, which is outlined in black there. So if you have a house in that area, the people should know, you should disclose that all this stuff they've got that's gas is, it's a burden, it's they can't really resell it again. You have to think about it at the very minimum. What does it mean to say you can't replace your gas furnace or your gas stove in a few years? So that is the benefit of selling an all-electric home. You don't have to have that conversation. It's ready for the present and the future. And that same ban, that's planned for 2030 in the state. So 8 years from now versus 5. But that it's the same narrative no matter where you're selling a home at this point, is that because of air pollution, and we are still not in compliance, we still have the dirtiest air in the nation, even though we passed a law in 1967 to try to solve it. Our fossil fuels legacy and practices in our state mean that people are harmed the most in our state, and CARB is finally responding because we have all the toys to do it, and we've demonstrated political will at the municipal level. But you know what? This is California struggling with politics. I just want to point out that in the rest of the nation, developers who develop 95% of homes that we live in, they're all going all electric, and they've been doing it since 1993. It's just because it's cheaper. That's the only reason. It's cheaper to build all electric, because every single gas appliance gets electricity delivered to it. So you build a house all electric, and then you add gas infrastructure, piping in the streets, piping to the building, piping throughout the building, venting from the device because it's a polluter. You have all these problems, and it's just money. Just for developers, it's just money. So in the South, which has been predominantly all electric construction since the 1950s, never stopped. Ever. Now we're at like 80% of new construction's all electric. But they developed 4 in 10 homes in the country, the South, like from Texas to Florida up to Georgia kind of area, the South. That's 4 in 10 homes. That's the #1 home building region. And they've been doing this forever because it just saves money. People buy the house, they love the house. They have no issue if their water heater's electric or their furnace is electric or gas, or for that matter, their stove. Smooth top electric stoves are nice to cook on. Not as nice as a gas stove in some ways, but induction's better than both of them. And now people are also talking about supper smog. The smog that comes, the actual real smog, okay? This is me asking Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory's chief scientist, Dr. Brett Singer. And I'm interviewing him like, hey, a New Yorker article in April 2019 about the hidden air pollution in our homes said kitchen air during cooking was so dirty that there's actual smog formation after 20 to 30 minutes of cooking on a gas stove. Was that an exaggeration? He's like, no. If you add pollutants like nitrogen dioxide from gas stoves to the cooking emissions, it is a mixture of pollutants deserving of a name like smog, although that name is already taken by outdoor air pollution. Well, I'm going to claim it. It's also indoor. It's the same stuff. So here's a nice graph if you like graphs. On the right-hand side is the dirtiest air you can find in the outside air of our country, right? The dotted line there, that is the limit that the EPA sets, and there is no county in our state that is out of compliance. So that is the dirtiest air we have, including in California. Here on the left-hand side, cooking on one dish, okay, that creates a little bit of that nitrogen dioxide pollution. Cleaning an electric oven, the worst thing you can do, creates more. You know, you don't want to be in the kitchen. But one dish on gas is worse than both. A full meal, and you are full on in hazardous health. I'm going to show you more graphs of that. Okay, right-hand side, real stories about kids dying of leukemia. What is the source of leukemia? It's environmental pollutants. Formaldehyde is one of the chief ones. Do you want to know what the #1 source of formaldehyde is in most people's lives? Their gas stove. Formaldehyde is the #1 source of formaldehyde in your life, unless you work in like an industrial chemical zone, is your gas stove. And it's heavier than air when it comes off the gas stove from combustion, and it pools around your feet where your kids are. Because if a kid's like 0 to 5 years old, they're right next to you while you're cooking and hanging out with you because they're just little, kids. And it's also where your pets are. And leukemia is a really horrible disease because your kid looks like they've got a cold, but they might be dead within weeks because leukemia is the fastest acting. It's a blood poison, right? It goes all over your body. So it is rough, truly rough. And this is the #1 source of leukemia. Sorry, not leukemia, because that can come from a number of things. #1 source of formaldehyde, which is a carcinogen, which does cause birth deformities, which is a terrible thing for you to be inhaling if you're pregnant or with a little kid. How bad is it? This is the real news right now from the headlines. Gas cooking poses an asthma risk to children comparable to secondhand cigarette smoke, right? And they've known that since 1995. Here's a paper I found. Effects of domestic gas cooking and passive smoking on chronic respiratory symptoms and asthma in elderly women. And you know what's worse? The gas stove. In this study, these little old ladies are getting worse asthma conditions than from secondhand cigarette smoke because they're the cook on the gas stove. That's how bad it is. So people are saying, kill your gas stove. That's in the Atlantic. NPR, we need to talk about your gas stove, your health and climate change. New York Times, did I turn off the stove? Yes, but not the gas, because gas stoves leak methane into our homes and they are a significant source of climate change pollution. How bad, you would say? Well, if a gas stove leaks 1% of the gas delivered to your house, then that is equal to all the climate change from burning the other 99%. That bad. Methane is almost 90 times worse than CO2, which you made from burning. Okay, so one of the main concerns that people have about going all electric is, what do you do when the power is out? Because gas is nice to have. You can cook on it when the power is out. Sometimes you keep your water heater going, sometimes not. Depends if it's electric ignition, which most of them are. We can get some services sometimes out of a gas burning home, especially if it's got old stuff that isn't electric operated. So this is our solution. F-150 Lightning, it's coming out this year, is wildly popular. They have sold 4 times as many as they thought. Menlo Park is a good example. The city's just like put 17 on order because they were going to replace all their trucks. This is an amazing truck. It's designed to power your house. And it is the equivalent of about 10 Tesla Powerwalls worth of battery in the wheels. And so you can plug this into your house and you can be set for a power outage at least for 3 days, but like a week or 2. And if you have solar power on your roof, you literally can go, well, I mean, except for maybe like December and January, you'd be set for weeks to months to forever. It's only a few months in the year where there'd be so little sunshine that you couldn't really keep up. But a battery that big could just absorb all your solar panel during the day and feed it back to you at night. Now, the truck is set up to do that. And now there are also products that are going to be able to make your Nissan Leaf or your Volkswagen e-Golf, etc. So Wallbox has been saying they were going to bring it out for 2 years now, but COVID just slowed them down. Asiaco, similarly, Nuvve, Fermata. Nuvve is out now. They've been doing it with school buses because electric school buses are a big thing in our country now. Awesomeness. So these are products that you have to keep your eye out because they're supposed to happen this year. They said that last year. Maybe this year now the pandemic is over. So these are just ones that are just like, they're all over Eurasia, by the way. This has been going on since the Fukushima nuclear power accident in Japan, the gigantic earthquake tsunami situation. Nissan said, okay, we'll waive the warranty issues and we're going to start letting people use our cars as home backups because when they shut that nuclear power plant down, they shut down all of them in the whole country. And they had 1/3 less power essentially overnight because of the concerns around another nuclear power accident. So that was sort of the beginning of people getting serious about using electric vehicles as backup. And there's lots of products elsewhere in the world that do this. It's just, this is slow to come to the United States. Another question that people have is like, well, I only have this much power delivered to my house. Maybe it's 60 amps, maybe it's 100 amps, maybe it's 200 amps. What am I going to do? So this is a nice house in Los Altos Hills. It's 3,500 square feet. They have a 200 amp panel and they have a lot of stuff. The swimming pool, the hot tub, the 2 Teslas, and an electric motorcycle. And they wanted to electrify their whole house. So to avoid a service upgrade, they did this little black box here. This is, I call it a plug strip. It only has 2 plug holes in it. You know, plug strips often have 6, but this is for high power devices. So it's just 2 plugs. But it's this is called Neocharge. There's Simple Switch. There's the DCC9. There's a whole bunch of these things. There's Dryer Buddy. And they're just designed to plug into an existing high power outlet, like the one for your dryer or one for like an EV charger. In this case, they're balancing the power between these 2 EVs. They're 2 Teslas. And they're balancing it with a different high power plug between the water heater and their induction stove. They have a fancy one. And then they put in a really high performance washer and dryer by LG, which I have too and I adore, that doesn't require a lot of power. It's like 1,400 watts instead of 7,200 watts. 7,200 watts, just, you know, that's what you have for a fast EV charger. It's a lot of power that an electric dryer uses. So you can just get like in a power efficient dryer, you can avoid a service upgrade, which is great. Service upgrades take 3 to 9 months. And they take $3,000 to $16,000. They're not cheap or fast. They're hard. They're complicated. They sometimes require more work on old homes. It sucks. So this is a great example. The savvy folks. And Elizabeth, you asked how much does the F-150 Lightning cost? And it's, oh, Greg says, yeah, 40 grand. And the bells and whistles where it comes with the vehicle to home charger is about 10 grand more, and it comes with an extended range vehicle. But the $40,000 version has a 240 volt plug in it. So you can power like compressors and has 11 120 volt plugs. It's designed essentially to power an entire construction site, power a big concert like your wedding or something. You could power a wedding off of a truck. Just have like a remote wedding, drive an F-150 Lightning up, power the stage, power a whole bunch of stuff. It's got a lot of battery in it. So it's very versatile even without the extra powering your house version. And there's a lot of people wonder about their stoves. So I just want to say there's lots of stove options. The cheapest one is $1,000, the Frigidaire for induction. Like, of course, there's the $500 electric resistant smooth top ones that go into rentals. Those are fine. I have my ex-wife's cousin. He's a multi-millionaire from Microsoft. When we visited his palatial home up in Seattle, he has an electric resistant smooth top stove that he cooks on and a gas water heater. I was like, why didn't you run gas to your stove? He's like, I like it. Cool. I like it too. No issues. You were a multi-millionaire, so I thought, you know, but no, he likes it. His cheap old electric resistance range. He's a good cook. But these are the nicer ones. They're faster, they're more responsive than gas, they're safer by far. So, and these are the fancy ones, the $3,500 up to $22,000 ones, the induction ranges with multiple ovens and the rest of it. There's no type of house that doesn't have an induction stove to fit it aesthetically. And then mist-based fireplaces. So here, if you're looking at me like video, you can see that I'm putting my hand in my fire right now. And this is an ultrasound. It's a theater effect, essentially. And but they made it small. And this I got on sale for about $800, and it made my Christmas so adorable. I live in a tiny house, and my kids come over, because tiny house is next to my ex-spouse's house. And we're right here, all on the farm. So the kids come over for Christmas. We're having so much fun. All the presents are around the fireplace. And I got a miniature little rosemary Christmas tree on the table. And my 7-year-old's like sticking her hands in the fire because it's magic. My 12-year-old's like, can you turn on the fireplace because it makes me feel warm? And this comes with a heater, but just looking at it makes you feel warm. So yeah, it can also do the heating job, but I just love it because it's so beautiful and fire-like. And I plug it into any 120-volt outlet, and it has like this easy to fill little water container here. If you're looking at me, this is what I just fill this every few days, and I run it during meetings and such to show people how awesome the all-electric lifestyle is. And so if you have clients who are saying, I've got a gas fireplace, what should I do about it? Replace it, and stick one of these in. It's as beautiful, if not more, because it looks so magical, and it's clean and safe, and it doesn't require venting, and it's much cheaper than a gas fireplace, much cheaper than a wood fireplace. And about stove cooktops, and Brandon, you wanted to know which one had the double oven? I would recommend double oven from KitchenAid. They have wonderful double oven stoves, and they're very high quality. And Brandon, you want to know about the stove tops? Yeah, there's tons of those too. I just didn't show a picture of like 4-burner, 6-burner induction ones. I even have a cute picture of Taylor Swift dancing in front of it when she was re-recording her songs recently. She did a lot of home videos, and I like Taylor Swift. So I took a screen capture because it's adorable. She's dancing around her induction smooth top countertop range, So here's some options. Like, they cost, not on sale, $1,400 for this one behind me, $2,600. And then a Firewater, this is a design company that offers these, and they'll offer them in any color with LEDs to change colors for commercial spaces, like a bar that is green on St. Patrick's Day and rainbow on Queer Gay Pride Day. And, like, just pick your colors, 4th of July, you can make the fireplace any colors. So it's got some like Hogwarts-like magic to it. And then they have all different facades. These are just examples, stone facades, blah, blah, blah. Any facade this has. Swimming pools. I just want to make sure I'm on time, by the way. 12:43. Okay, so I'm almost done, and I'll be handing off to Becky here in just a sec. So, quick story. CJ lives locally. He buys from our farm, meats, and he invites us over, and his swimming pool is inside, which is amazing. There's no swimming pools up here because it's so cold outside in the summertime. You go into his place, and it's hot, and there's a rope swing and pineapples, bananas, sugar cane, peppers and tomatoes and cucumbers, all sorts of amazing hot weather stuff, and it smells so good. So go in there and take the kids. I've been teaching them how to swim in there. Lots of fun. This solar thermal system you can see here, these panels, this is like a $30,000+ solar thermal system that still needed a gas system to back it up. And he replaced it with this Hayward, this one specifically, for $3,000. That's what it costs. And then you plumb it in for another few $1,000. But it's like 1/7 as expensive, and it deals with all of the work all winter long. And like this what's it called? AquaCal Heat Wave Super Quiet Icebreaker. This thing works at like about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. You can still be taking swimming pools outside with this product at its rated temperature. And you could have a second one or a third one and run it even colder if you were like up in Tahoe. And then they make ones that are specifically for hot tubs outside, not swimming pools. Most people don't have swimming pools outside in the winter because it's so much energy it costs. But anyway, these heat pumps are all inexpensive. This is what the whole world is doing. People are not burning gas with solar thermal anymore. It's so expensive to build and still operate. This is the cheap, easy way. Get some solar electric panels up on the roof and run a heat pump water heater. If you're partying outside, I go to conferences and parties a lot, and I get headaches as a tall person next to the propane burning heaters. like it's the carbon monoxide, shuts down my brain, and I'm paid for my brain. It's the one thing I can't shut down when I'm at a party. So these are, the sort of table types or the overhead types that are electric and 120 volt, and you can plug into anything in your house. These are all examples for your own home, so you can have outside parties. And Robert, you're saying, what's the purpose of this presentation? Electricity is mostly generated by fossil fuels and coal and oil. Isn't gas cleaner until we switch to renewables? Good question. So heat pumps in any state, like this heat pump right here, doesn't matter if you're in West Virginia running on coal, because this collects heat from the outside. During the summer, as an example, you'll use one unit of electricity gets you 10 units of heat. 10 times. If you're using 1 unit of gas, you get 80% of that. So 0.8, 1 versus 0.8 versus 1 versus 10 units of heat. It's radically more efficient, and it does decarbonization work even when on a 100% fossil fuel grid in our electricity. That's what heat pumps do. Heat pump stoves, not stoves, let me say. Heat pumps for the house space heating, heat pumps for the water heating. And then laundry dryers and stoves only use 10% of the energy in a home, the gas, I should say, in a home. So you can electrify them, and they're way more efficient, but not necessarily more efficient than gas from a greenhouse gas perspective, but they're only 10% of the problem. The 90% of the problem is water heating and space heating. And there's radical efficiency gains from using heat pumps. So yeah, now the global warming potential, the global warming potential is like 1/100th of the problem of methane gas leakage, because methane leaks, pardon me, methane leaks from your house at about 1.5%. And then the system where it's like coming out of the ground to your house, it's in the range of 10%. Some of the official numbers out there say 3 to 5%, but the climate, like when you're going atmospherically looking at it, that doesn't support it. And there's lots of fields around the world, like in Russia, for instance, that are super leakers, as well as the United States. So as we get better at looking at the atmosphere, not with some sort of like granular studying this or just that, like, no, what is the net effect of what's going on here? It's more like 10%, which is far more than the impact of burning. And so just methane leakage is 1/3 of the world's climate change happening right now. 1/3 is the methane leakage. So getting gas to your home has a profoundly worse climate change impact than even the burning of it. It's worse than the burning is the leakage that you didn't even see on the way. The gas field, the gas lines, the gas meter, which is a built-in leak. It's called a pressure regulator. It's a built-in leak of 0.5%. Oh my God. So yeah, don't worry about the refrigerants. A, they're getting better all the time. B, they're not a problem compared to how bad the methane leakage is. So you have methane leakage and you have climate change inducing refrigerants leakage. The methane leakage is more than 100 times worse. Just don't delay. Let's see. And Heather, you're saying, I heard heat pumps were, you haven't seen them in person, but heard that they were noisy, and ours is right next to our bedroom, so hesitant. Yeah, the way that you do it is you acoustically insulate that closet, or you get a higher cost silent one. So Sanco 2, silent, but like 3 times as expensive. Or you get the ones that are about 50 to 52 decibels, and you put acoustic insulation in there, like just fiberglass in the closet, and then you put it on a rubber pad so it doesn't shake, and then that's quiet. Then you really can't hear that. That's fine. And they only run for 1 to 4 hours a day, and pretty much just after you take a shower. So you're frequently not around or bothered by it, if you even don't have it insulated acoustically. But that's the right thing to do until we get, inverter controlled ones. Okay, the last slide was, hey, in barbecues, you can't have a gas or a charcoal barbecue on a boat, right? Because where are you gonna jump where there's a fire? Don't wanna drown. So electric barbecues for a long time have been in luxury circumstances on boats and yachts and stuff, but now they make them for everything. And the best one, honestly, is Weber. Like New York Times, like, yeah, go with the Weber. It's a great grill. Weber knows how to do it. Okay, so I'm going to hand this over to Becky. Hello, Becky, and I'm going to go to the chat and I'll start typing in responses to your questions. Hello, Madam Menton. How you doing? You gotta unmute yourself. Oh, you're having a problem? You can't unmute. Well then, why don't you show up your slide and I can try to talk through your slide.
And I will see if I can fix that. I should be able to
Oh,
fix that.
Great, you got
Just
me
a
unmuted.
second.
Thank you.
there
And
we
now we
go.
will see. Thank you. And I do apologize. I'm going to have to share some info and run. My name's Becky Menton. I am the program manager at East Bay Community Energy for building electrification and energy efficiency. East Bay Community Energy is a CCA which provides electricity service to Alameda County as well as the city of Tracy. And I wanted to share with you all a non-exhaustive, but hopefully helpful list of some of the funds that are available. I will also share this presentation after the fact so these slides can be distributed. And each of these titles is a hyperlink to the website where you can actually find out more information about the incentives that are available. So the first place I always encourage owners of single family residential homes to go is an organization called BayREN. That's the Bay Area Regional Energy Network. It's a cohort of governments who've joined together to administer energy efficiency dollars in the Bay Area region. They have a wonderful $5,000 incentive that's available for whole building when you want to do your insulation, your general efficiency measures, as well as the installation of some of these high efficiency electric appliances. And they also have a wonderful home energy advisor service where you can actually talk to someone about what you want to do with your project, and they can help you sort of figure out a good contractor to work with and the suite of incentives that are available. So it's always a great place to start. $5,000 is available through that program. They have some other one-off incentives for things like induction stoves, which are great as well. EBCE is funding a kicker incentive that goes directly to the installer for heat pump water heater replacement. The theory here is that your heat pump water heater breaks, or let's say your water heater breaks, you want to switch it out. It's annoying to have to find a rebate program, fill out all the applications, figure out how to access the funds. So in that case, we also have an additional incentive which goes directly to the installer, so you don't even have to worry about it. Just shows up in a cheaper cost of the project. I would also say though, don't wait until your water heater breaks to replace it. If your water heater is 8 to 10 years old, you should start planning now for an upgrade to an efficient unit for reasons we can go into later. Now we also have a program available called the Tech Program. This program also is geared to pay to installers. So ideally, participate in the BayREN program or get an upgrade. You won't even have to worry about it. The installer will just reduce the cost of your equipment. These are available for heat pump water heaters and for space conditioning heat pumps, $3,100 and $3,000. I forgot to include the incentive for the commercial induction range. If we have any restaurant owners in here, EBCE in particular has started a very high incentive program to try and encourage restaurant owners to move away from gas equipment and towards induction. We're paying up to $15,000 for that program. So that should pretty much cover the cost of a new induction unit. We also will provide another $2,500 for wiring upgrades. So before, in case you need to move an outlet to the location so that you can actually power the unit, that's also covered. I will update that information when we share the slide. That program is only available for EBCE customers. About 97% of Alameda County's residential customers are participating in EBCE's products. So it's not a huge barrier. Adjacent but still relevant, EBCE is also offering a program called Resilient Home. This program helps provide both combined solar and battery backup systems for customers' homes. This program only has an incentive if you allow EBCE to dispatch the battery. We use this fleet of batteries on residential homes in times when there are reliability issues on the grid. So it's not very common that your battery will be dispatched, and we try to work out a system to make sure that the supply you need is there. But it does allow us to provide a low carbon electricity product cheaper by having the participation of homeowners in our area. We do, however, have pre-negotiated pricing for these systems. We put out a solicitation to find a preferred vendor. That vendor agreed to offer discounted pricing to our customers. So there's a built-in reduction in the cost just through participation in the program, and an additional incentive if you'll allow us to dispatch the battery. The last program that I have on this slide that we're very excited about is a partnership with an organization called Block Power. This program is targeted at low to moderate income customers. That's defined as up to 120% of AMI, otherwise known as area median income. In the Bay Area, for a family of 4, that's up to $100,000 or so, depending on specifically the region that you're in. And for this program, if you're between 80 to 120% of AMI, you can get an additional $4,000 to the cost of your project. If you're 80% AMI or lower, you can get up to $10,000 for the cost of your project. And this incentive stacks on the other ones that have been mentioned. So it can be a pretty good deal for certain customers in our region. Since we spent a lot of time talking about induction and how awesome induction cooking is, I also wanted to mention that in a few weeks, EBCE will be launching an induction cooktop lending program. So if you're interested in induction, but you're not quite ready to commit for a full kitchen remodel, you can take a cooktop, borrow it for 3 weeks, try some of the recipes we share. We also have a pan since induction cooktops do require magnetic cookware. More information on that on our website. So I'll also share the link for that program, which should be launching by May 16th. So that is just a few brief topics I to jump in about 4 minutes. So I can either turn it back over to Sean and or see if there are any questions for me to field in the chat.
Becky, thank you so much for contributing all that information. Let me also mention that through BayRen, which is a program, free counseling, as she mentioned, which I have referred to many of my clients, right now they also have individual rebates, $1,000 for heat pump water heaters and heat pump heating systems, $300 for induction cooktops, up to $1,000 for insulation. So they're individual programs for individual products, in addition to the overall $5,000. So really encourage people. We did have representatives from BayRen come and speak during one of our, when we were doing our cocktail hours. So really encourage people to check out these rebates. And thank you so much, Becky, for sharing all those details. And to answer people's questions, yes, this is being recorded. And so all of you who attended and everyone who signed up will be getting the recordings, and we'll make sure to send out the updated slides. So thank you so much. All righty.
Yay, Becky.
Becky.
I want to get those slides to you, Becky, when you're ready. So you did a great job of summarizing, and everyone needs that, and no one seems to have it. Thank you.
That's right. All righty, back to you, Sean. So I know you've been answering questions in the chat.
Yes, and so I'll draw attention to some of them. Tried to respond to Christine and David Gluck, and to Vanessa Tate. And then there's a question about mini splits. So if you have a mini split in your home, let me just talk briefly about refrigerants, since that seems to be a concern that a few people have raised. If you are putting a heat pump in your home, carbon dioxide is the best refrigerant, but it has to be very high pressure, and so you can't deliver it around the house. It actually has to stay in the device, and then you release hot water, or cold water for that matter. So that's the best refrigerant, but you really have to work with water to then use it. And then there's heat pumps that are the standard in the United States is that we use 410A, which is a terrible refrigerant. A small amount of it, but still, it's not nice, bad stuff. No, don't say that. Just not nearly as bad as the gas leaks, not even close. But if you want to avoid that nasty stuff, then you're looking for the European Eurasian variety, which is called R32. And everyone's using R32 from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean of Eurasia. But we're not. Just a little bit of stuff that's in packaged products once again. So if you want to get R32, you would get, I think Mitsubishi has one. They're very limited, but you get Lobel, and there's one out of Canada, separate conversations because it's so niche. But that's the idea, is you'd start getting a less nasty refrigerant. You'd hold it inside the machine. That's the rule. Don't let that leak, because a packaged device gets factory inspected. Field installed devices always leak. They never can be inspected as good as a factory. So you get your nasty refrigerant, you keep it in a package, and then you release water. That's the goal. Just heating and cooling water is the most environmentally benign way of doing that. But that isn't always a good solution for this building or that building, or that, it's like, so I personally, for instance, I like little packaged heat pumps that go on the wall that are using a low global warming potential refrigerant like R32. So those little heaters on the wall, they're little heat pumps, totally silent, lovely. So that's my favorite solution. Once again, not for everybody. But I would also say like refrigerant is kind of the least of our worries right now. That is not the cause of climate change. A third of climate change is methane leaks. That is a full-blown hair on fire crisis. And interestingly, if you get rid of methane, because it's a fast acting climate change, it's only there for 10 years, we could actually solve a near-term problem of what happens in the next 10 years. Whereas CO2 lasts for 100 years. And so we're locked in. There's no getting off that train, but we can get off the train with methane fast and have fast benefits. Okay, new messages coming in. I don't know about Ventura County. Well, Becky's there. Bruce King says, if I want to convert our entire older home from gas to electric, new panels, solar, electric cars, should I hire someone to conceptually design the systems and then ask contractors to make proposals? Yes. You should definitely start with a concept, because what you're trying to do could be well done by like Electrify My Home if you're in the Bay Area, or Eric Morrill, who's just entering into the business, but is fantastic. He used to work at Piotalk. There's a few other businesses in the Bay Area that try to approach it globally. If you want to hang out with me, I do it for free, but I don't give you more than an hour. I'll give you an hour of my time. So if you give me pictures of your gas devices and your panel, and I can make quick recommendations and such. And then sometimes I've been working with wealthy folks, and I'll do a little bit of work here or there, but mostly I work on apartment complexes because they're much wealthier, to be honest. I can actually pay like the bills from owning my house. Whereas if I was to try to ask each of you to pay me a little bit of money, you take each of you so much time. You take just as much time as in a whole apartment building. So just, I'm trying to just raise my kids and have a house. So, but I happily help you out for like an hour, especially if you come prepared with pictures, so I can give you good recommendations.
So Sean, I'm also going to chime in with a recommendation for all of our viewers, which is that upcoming soon is the East Bay Green Homes Tour. And this is a wonderful way to see a number of installations of homes, typical from bungalows to bigger homes, and see how people have actually electrified their homes. The videos from the 2021 tours are online. If you just Google East Bay Home Tour, and in fact, you will also see there something I'll put in the chat, which was a video that I did last year through our Climate Action Committee with Chef Rochelle showing an induction cooktop and how well they work, including work with woks. And Sean can talk a little bit more about woks, because I see he's involved in woks lately. But the green home tours are wonderful, and you see real life examples. You can watch those videos. They give examples of very specific products, anywhere from the heat pumps in individual rooms, whole house, vented, unvented, induction stoves, induction cooktops, the whole thing. So those are real life examples here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I think you should go on those tours. But if you can't, you can also see like Silicon Valley Clean Energy is given awards each year to electrified homes. There's just tons of beautiful examples in California, which I'll say again, is the anomaly in our whole country. And it's only because of the energy crisis of 2000, where I should have maybe put a slide for that saying like California Energy Commission, they were responsible for not letting the power go out during that crisis. And the lesson they got is that they will all but get their asses fired if that ever happens again. And of course, we lost our governor, right? That's how Schwarzenegger came in. It was a big deal in governance. So they made a code in 2003 that would prevent people from electrifying their homes to reduce the risk to the grid. And so between 2010, well, there's no development in 2010 because of the recession. Starting in 2011, when development started again after a few-year pause statewide, from 2011 to 2019, 1% of California homes were built all electric. Of that 1%, my consultancy was responsible for 60%. So it was almost no one even doing it because it was such an act of rebellion. But I'm kind of that person. So I had a great time.
And we're so glad you are.
Oh yes, well, but I'm just more to the point, it's being done all over the rest of the country. It's not that big of a deal. It's how most people want to, like 88% of dryers in our country are electric. 61% of stoves in our country are electric. Both the majority of all the buildings built from 1950 on have more of them are electric than not, right? So for space heating and space cooling, and sometimes there's different mixes, so it's not like all electric, but the point is that this is a big deal everywhere else. And it's just a little weirdly heretical in this petro state that got traumatized by the 2000 energy crisis.
And we like to think that in California we're progressive, and yet
Yeah,
we are lagging. We are lagging terribly here. And
well, there's one thing to think. It's like in
ways to catch up.
California claims credit for starting this indoor cigarette bans. No more smoking inside of restaurants and bars. That starts in the coastal cities of California's municipal bans for restaurants and such. Santa Barbara is very proud of their history of that. And when they were passing their gas and construction ban, they're like, we're dealing with the same problem. We are the same government doing the same kind of thing. We're trying to stop the air pollution, and this is our job. Like we're a California coastal city. We recognize our role in society. We'll put forward a solution to this problem that is not being solved elsewhere. So we get to claim credit for gas bans as opposed to voluntary measures. And I think that you'll see in the rest of the country that voluntary measures are going to be absolutely necessary to enforce and push, because not everyone gets to regulate like Californians do. But no, I think we've done a terrific job of pushing the issue forward. We've changed the national narrative, literally, like the Empire State Building. They just came out with their electrification plan for the Empire State Building. That's how hardcore. Bill Clinton was there with the new Governor Hochul to ribbon cut the plan. So we have completely captivated at least the Democratic Party, and we've scared the piss out of the oil companies that support Republicans and Democrats.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
I thought actually where you were going to go with the business about indoor air quality and smoking was about the indoor air quality of gas stove relative to smoking. Why don't you tell that story?
Okay, well, I was showing that slide, I think, a little bit earlier, right? The news articles on how dangerous it is for your personal health. My personal story, I'm not sure if this is the one you meant, Arlene, but it's the one that comes to my mind, is that when I was pregnant with, when my wife at the time was pregnant with twins, and I was very responsible. She would come home from doing the farm chores in the wintertime. We'd started a farm, come home cold, soaking wet, the whole bit, getting chicken eggs and such. And then we'd open up the oven and turn it on, the gas oven, in order to warm up and like put your shirt over it to really get the heat coming up. And we didn't know we had twins. These are surprise twins because we'd skipped an ultrasound. We had lots of doctors. No one knew it was twins. And we had them premature. And it turns out that inhaling natural gas when it's been combusted like that is a great way to trigger premature birth. That's what it does. Nitrous dioxide does constriction to your blood vessels, and it causes essentially a certain stress to your body. And doing that over and over will trigger premature birth. And that premature birth of our surprise twins was one of the most awful experiences of my entire life. And when I look back, because we kept on doing that, is the thing that just crushes me. Like, I didn't know about how bad gas stove pollution was and all the health effects until like 2014.
and the fact that it's like having somebody smoking. It's equivalent to secondhand smoke in your home.
In your home.
So, in your home.
Invisible, but it's just as bad or worse for your health. So
and I know there are in fact some people on this call who have shared stories with me about having a gas stove, as many of us do, and then they go away, maybe to a vacation home, a rental, another state, whatever, and are using induction. And then they come back here to California or back to their kitchen and they smell it. Yeah. But we get used to it. We become immune to it. But if you're away for a while and then you come back, I was like, wow, I'm smelling gas all the time. Well, it is there all the time.
It is there all the time. And sometimes those gas leaks are seriously dangerous. My brother and sister-in-law moved from New York City. They're famous artists, kind of. They get just got a Guggenheim Award and such. So they fled New York City because of COVID. The trucks on the street with bodies and such. That was in their neighborhood. They come here to Arcata, and they've sold it to a New York Times photographer. Their condo. So she's posting pictures and things, and then there's an explosion in the building, and upstairs someone was turning on the gas stove that had not been on for a while, and it popped a cap on the gas stove. So all of a sudden the apartment had been filled with gas and they were lighting on fire. And they were in like a medically induced coma for a few weeks from the fire burns. The entire building's real estate value was trashed. Every single residence got hosed with water from the fire suppression, as well as a hole in the side of the building. And even though she loves this place because of the northern light and the lights, and she said so many stars and such get, you know, photographed in that apartment now. In the New York Times, she's selling it because everyone has to sell because the whole building is destroyed because someone turned on a gas stove and nearly died from it. It's like these gas leaks are a big deal. and the little ones that you think are just, oh, I'm only just destroying the planet's climate. That's all I'm doing right now with this small gas leak versus like, I might die, or I might have premature children, or one of my children might be born stillborn because that happens also with nitrogen dioxide, increases the chance of stillbirth. And my kids had to come out like one of them was blue and all that. I just think this is so intense if this actually happens to you. If your mother dies in a fire, that is an intense, life-changing thing. And we should start respecting the fact that this is happening to a lot of us, each of us having like a small tragedy in their lives that is real and cumulative. And we could stop having this nonsense if we just electrified. Like we wouldn't have to have a Ukraine war because Russia wouldn't be able to hold all of Europe blackmail for their natural gas, which they just turned off yesterday to Poland and Bulgaria, I think it was. I mean, this is every day. It's a big deal.
Well,
The faster we can
and
go, the
again,
better.
and also on a very practical matter for us, those of us who are realtors, as you said, in just 5 years in the Bay Area counties,
It-
you will not be able
That's
to
it.
have replacement gas products, appliances. So
Yeah.
it is time. It is past time, but it's definitely time now. We haven't already talking the talk, walking the walk, and encouraging as we are getting properties ready for sale. This is a perfect opportunity. We should never be replacing another gas stove, another gas water heater, or furnace in kind. This is our opportunity to lead by example. So I think there are just a couple more questions in the chat. I'll let Sean finish those. But I want to thank you. Is there any final words you want to leave us before we let our listeners go and stop the recording?
Well, yeah, one thing I didn't mention is that my first development clients were Republicans. And I would go down the hallways in the morning and there's Rush Limbaugh and there's Mike Savage. And this is the culture that I worked in. And I tried to find ways of commonality for us to be able to get along because, you know, like, so money, in the end, it was money. And then what I was able to say is like, look, it costs us less to develop this way. It speeds up our construction timeline. We have less hassles and it costs less. So trying to find these very practical solutions, I've discovered that the rest of the country, Democrat or Republican, has been moving faster on electrification than California has. And doesn't matter your politics, induction is just a better cooking experience. Just is. And none of us want to have, you know, a challenged birth of our children or grandchildren. That is the most nightmarish thing to spend weeks in a hospital with little kids. So I just wanted to point out the uniformity of all of our common interests in rapidly electrifying for the health of our families and the health of our nation. And then, you know, to look carefully and realize like this, even if you don't agree, it's happening fast. And so I hope that even if you don't agree, that you just respect that your clients who are buying homes should know that they're going to be shutting off gas in California by 2035, and they're not going to sell gas stuff to you in the next 5 to 8 years anymore to help you get ready for that. And that's just how it is. So just,
And we
you
hope
know,
along the
disclose,
way,
you know,
yeah. And
disclose
we
to them
also
like
hope,
you would anything else.
and there truly are some advantages. An induction cooktop, I was telling Sean earlier, I have unfortunately still, and now I'm really motivated to get rid of it. You know, it's beautiful, but it is uncleanable. There's so many little bits and pieces, and as opposed to induction cooktop, like I encourage my 92-year-old father-in-law, and he took me up on it, and he put in an induction cooktop, and you just wipe it clean, simply, beautifully. It's hotter, faster, better. You're not breathing in this noxious air. So I hope from this presentation there will be some light bulb that went off for you, whether it's gas leaks coming into your house or those just horrible stories that Sean has shared with us from his personal life. And I'm so sorry you had to go through that. But let us all be the beneficiaries of that information. So thank you so much, Sean. Thank you on behalf of the Climate Action Committee at Bridge Association of Realtors. And for all of us watching, I hope you have found something to take away from this wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. I hope you all have a great day. Thanks. I'm going to put my email address. Sean Armstrong is my full name, right? PM as in project manager, and I work nights, so PM@gmail.com. And that, if you need help, I will try to help you.
And
But it might literally take me a week.
offer.
It might take me a week to respond. Like I get a little drowned at times, but I want to help you out, right? And I'll send you to
wonderful offer. And
go.
again, just a reminder that the Green Home, East Bay Green Home House Tours are coming up in May. And this weekend is also a native plant tour. And that's another wonderful way we can support our planet. So with that, I'm going to shut off the recording, and thank you so much.
Take
Everyone
care.
have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Tom.